Hey there! Okay, today, sorry, that was Milk Huckfield being channeled. Today we're going to have a look at what I think is an interesting pen, and one for which I have received quite a couple of review requests. This is the Pilot Decimo. Question: isn't that the same thing as the Vanishing Point? Answer: no. But thanks for asking. It looks like it, and it's not strange to think that, but here you have a Vanishing Point and here you have a Decimo, and right after I'm done with this video I'm going to record a fountain pen shootout between the two. But what you can tell if you look attentively is that the capless, the Vanishing Point, is actually quite a bit thicker. It has more girth, and what you cannot tell from the video, but what I can tell you from here, is that the Vanishing Point is actually a bit heavier. So the Decimo, a little bit cheaper. They go for $139. I checked Jet Pens because that's why I happened to buy this one a while ago. So $139, whereas the Vanishing Point, not this one, this happens to be a limited edition, but the regular Vanishing Points are $146.50 there. So the price difference is not very large, which I think will also make for an interesting fountain pen shootout. So what is the point of this pen? Well, the point of this pen, if you're unfamiliar with it, is, because it may look a bit peculiar, is that it has a retractable nib mechanism. There's a couple of those pens out there. The Lamy Dialogue 3 is another one, except that you twist it to retract the nib. But these pens are very practical. A lot of people who are in professions where they need to be able to quickly use a pen like these, because it's just one-handed operation, which is a lot easier than uncapping a pen. Nib is 18 karat gold, just as with the Vanishing Point. Same nib unit, so if you have both pens you can swap them out. But the biggest difference, as I said, is that the Decimo is a bit thinner and a bit lighter than the capless / Vanishing Point. Two names for the same pen, as far as I understand, is. So if you like a slightly lighter pen, if you like a pen with a little less girth, then this may be an interesting pen for you to get. The final thing I wanted to say was, I read that this is actually lacquer over a brass barrel. They definitely are lighter, so a lighter pen. There you have it. I'm going to cover the parts of the pen, I'll do a writing sample, and I'll tell you what I like about it and what I don't like about it. Let's get started. Okay, let's start with the Pilot Decimo. Maybe you're supposed to say Decimo. I'm actually not 100% sure, so bear with me. Interesting pen. First thing I wanted to do, because I tend to forget these things, but I have the feeling people like this. This is the pen next to a Lamy Safari. So it's not a giant pen, but it's not super small. I think it's more so when you compare it to the Vanishing Point that you really see the difference in girth, not in length really. Okay, parts of the pen. I usually start with the cap, but of course it's a capless pen, so I'm going to start with what I guess this would be the cap. Now you have this interesting mechanism here. These pens can dry out. There is a little flap that you can see, and I'm operating the nib. You see it sort of pops back and then the nib slides out. They can dry out a bit. I haven't had enormous issues with these pens drying out, but I would say these are pens that you actually need to use. So don't put this in your pocket and then don't use it for a week and then expect it to start out blindly. They can dry out a bit, but I haven't had, as I said, I haven't had terrible issues with it. Metal, and you have the clip. Now the clip is a clip. I mean, it doesn't have the indentation that the capless or the Vanishing Point has, but it is rather comfortable. I can close my fingers around this, and when it comes to the capless, I can close my fingers around it too, but I have to squeeze a bit harder. So for those of you with slightly smaller hands, this might be a very comfortable pen model. As I said, brass lacquer on top, which I think it comes out quite nicely. It's very shiny, very reflective, feels very smooth. You have this sort of, it is kind of two rings, but those rings are bigger. And then you have the end of the barrel and the push knob, which is really quite long, if you compare it to a ballpoint, for example. But that is quite nice, right? you can unscrew the barrel. Be a bit careful because that, as you just saw, that is a slightly spring-loaded thing, and that barrel can actually fly off. And here we have the nib unit. Slightly interesting looking nib unit, I always found. So this is all of that's nib unit. You can put in cartridges, but comes with this converter. You have the feed and the nib, 18K fine. Sorry, this is actually an extra fine nib. It's not my pen. Metal part, and then you have this converter. Not the largest capacity in the world, for sure. Just wiped off some ink there. When you put them back in, always be careful. There is a little slot there, right? This only fits in one way. And then again, hold this tightly and screw it back into place. Interesting pen. Very comfortable, I would say. It's good size in hand, and I think these are very fascinating pens for those who really need a one-handed operation, because it is convenient, that's for sure. So, for example, one of the persons I know who uses this is a chef. So you know it's easy. You can quickly put it out of take it out of usually the pocket on the shoulder, take it out, operate it, and work with it. So that's rather nice. Okay, now let's see how this writes. So here we have the Pilot. Now bear in mind, extra fine nib, and camera microphones pick on nib sounds rather well. Extra fine 18K nib, and the ink is just watermelon blue. So first question is it scratchy? It's definitely a very fine, so a very fine, extra fine should actually say. The question is, I wouldn't call it scratchy, but with so little tipping, there is feedback for sure. Wouldn't be my nib choice, but then again, it's not my pen. So, no real skipping, that's nice. As to wetness, not a super wet nib, but for an extra fine, it's really not that bad. Line variation, there is a little bit to be had. As always, very, very careful when you do this. Not a whole lot. I find this a relatively stiff nib. Yeah. It's already very, that's a terrible writing, sorry. It's already a fairly fine nib, so as soon as it's from an extra fine to an extra fine, I guess, it gets very dry. It's not super scratchy, which is nice, but I don't see why I would do that with the extra fine nib. Maybe with a broader nib that would make more sense. And that's it. So they have the Decimo. Let's see what I like about it and what I don't like about it. Okay, what do I like and what do I not like about the Pilot Decimo? There's a couple of things to be liked. It's a little bit cheaper than the Vanishing Point, but to be honest, 139 versus 146.50, the difference is negligible. What I think is nice is that it is a slimmer and a lighter pen, and for some people that is very pleasant because not everybody likes heavier pens. Now this is the regular capless, so the Vanishing Point is by no means the heaviest pen I've ever used, but indeed there's a lot of metal. It is a girthier pen, so you do feel that a little bit. I do like that Pilot has made a pen that is a bit thinner and that may be nicer for people who like a lighter pen, but also those with maybe slightly smaller hands. So I like that. I also like that it has the same nib unit as the Vanishing Point. The reason for that being, quite simply, that you can switch out nib units, which is a good thing. If you happen to have one and you happen to have the other, you can swap them around, and of course it doesn't make a lot of sense if you have the same nib on it, but if you have, say, a stub and an extra fine, then you can really switch them up and move them around a bit, and I think that is a lot of fun. So in that regard, I do think that is a very nice interchangeability, and that you actually purchase the same 18 karat nib unit. It's not like the Decimo is always steel and the Vanishing Point is always gold or something. I find the light, well, the affordability nice. It's nice that it's a little bit cheaper, but as I said, the difference is kind of negligible, which begs the question of, well, doesn't it make more sense if you're going to purchase one to spend the, what is it, the additional $7.50 and just get the capless? Maybe. I don't know. That really depends on whether you like a thinner pen or a slightly bigger pen. What I will say is that the Vanishing Points are very collectible. A lot of people really like them. There's a whole bunch of finishes, there's special editions, limited editions, like this pink one, which is not mine, strangely enough, it's Aziza's. Bet you never guessed that. So there is that collectability issue, which is nice, and I do think that makes these pens special. That kind of like with the Lamy Safari, except more expensive, but you can get them in all these colors, which is kind of nice. Okay, what do I not like about it so much? Well, not a whole lot. I don't particularly care for I mean, the clicking mechanism is cool, it's very, very practical. I don't particularly care for it though. I have no need for it really. So I had one, I sold mine because I didn't use it enough. But that's a personal preference. Another issue is that I kind of prefer the Vanishing Point because I like a slightly girthier pen, but that is a personal preference as well. I think my biggest, maybe fairly objective issue is that I find these converters to be rather small. I mean, this was at the very least half full. Then I did the writing sample for this review and a shootout, and already it's lost quite a bit of ink simply because the capacity isn't that high. It's not a large capacity converter. So that I don't like so much, especially for a pen that is so practical. If I want to use this one-handedly, maybe I want to use it on the road, maybe, etc., and then I would like a bigger capacity converter. But maybe that's nitpicking too, I don't know. In any case, what I will say is, and this is the bottom line, it's a Pilot pen. The pens are well made, out of the box. They typically write. I've used a bunch of these nibs. I've had a broad nib, I've had the stub, I've had these extra fines I've used now. They all write well. So you are buying something that will write, that will do things well out of the box. It's well made, tolerances are good. I really think this is, you could do a lot worse than get one of these pens. They're nice, and relatively speaking, for the cool factor of the clicking mechanism, I don't think they are horribly priced either. So, quite interesting. Alright, that's all for now. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye bye.
Bye.